Welcome back to another Racer X track examination, the final track exam of 2023. My name is Donnie, and I'm joined by the Patreon privateer hero, a man that invented an entire way to go racing with a crowdfunded program. Number 80 on that Tank Masters KTM, Kevin Moranz. Thank you for joining me to break down Salt Lake City's track.
Absolutely excited to be here.
So first things first, congratulations on an incredible 450 season. You've already made 14 main events out of 16, currently sitting P18, 84 points on the season, just shy of 14th place. Or I'm sorry, just shy of top 16.
Yeah.
You raced here in Salt Lake last year. You netted your best finish of the season with a 15th in the finale. Denver gets a lot of attention for being the mile-high stadium, but Salt Lake is no joke because it's still like 4,300 feet above sea level. What is it like to race in the sort of elevation we had last weekend and this weekend?
It's difficult, obviously, because the guys like me, like that aren't used to it, you get very short of breath very quickly. So breathing is the most important thing when it comes to going through Supercross track. Obviously, a lot of racers know it's pretty tough to breathe within the first couple laps. It's so intense. You got so much going on that you just kind of forget to breathe. So just being calm and calculated in that is a very big deal. Having it back-to-back weekends, I think the second weekend obviously is a little bit better than the first weekend because you're semi-acclimated to it. But yeah, dude, it's always tough.
So let's take a look at this track map, Kevin. What is the first thing that stands out to you when you look at the SLC track map for the first time?
So the first thing that we notice is whatever we have going on before, like on the other side of the whoops, the berm after the whoops, whatever that is on the other side of it is like, it looks like a little like half wall. Like, don't know what our thought process is there or if that's going to be there. I'm sure it's not because everybody's just going to go wide around it unless it's like a small roller. But in the track map, it looks like a wall.
So we have another super long start to end the year, all the way from one wall to the next. You're an incredible starter. Do you like these long ones?
I like these long ones because that allows you to be able to take any line more or less. So obviously, we've been P6 to 8 in the heat races. Or if I had to come through the LCQ or whatever, your gate picks anywhere from 15 to 22 kind of deal. So, well, I would say probably like 12 to 22. But yeah, that it changes the game for me because obviously the real short ones with the hairpin, you have to have a solid gate to get to be realistically up in there. I've kind of been able to prove that it doesn't really matter, which I like. And that's what I love about my starts and my confidence. But this just makes it a little bit easier to be able to take a cleaner line anywhere on the starting gate instead of having to be, in that sweet spot of a couple, right or left of the doghouse.
So that first turn dumps out straight into a rhythm lane. Take me through what are the options you guys are going to have on that first rhythm?
So when we come around, it looks like, you're going to be turning off of that single. I doubt that single's big enough to jump into it. So at that point, it depends on how much of a run you have up to it. Whether you try to go on off, like I said earlier, like 4 into the corner, I don't think is going to be realistic. So most guys are probably going to be single over table, 3-2 into the corner. Just because that's going to be a little bit better option unless you can somehow. It'd be amazing if you can, but double in and then go table over 2 over the big one and the 3 into the corner. But I don't see that happening, especially when you're pushing through the first corner.
So we have another track where they make great use of the start straight, crossing back 4 times, which could add a few seconds per lap. There's been some debate recently about the length of races. Do you appreciate that Dirtworks this year has made some longer lap times by having it crisscross back across the start more often?
Yeah, I would have to say that it's easier to do a long moto. Like when you get to a main events, 20 lap or 20 minutes. Like if you have a short track, you're doing, close to 30 laps and it gets very repetitive and it feels like it takes forever. So if you have a little bit longer lap time, it reduces the amount of laps and the amount of times you see each section within that main event, which then makes it feel like it's a shorter race. So yeah, we do appreciate a little bit longer lap times.
So we cross double, bull turn, double cross again. Then you got finish line over the tunnel. Then we have 2 back-to-back 90s into a whoop section. Might be difficult to get a good run at those. They going to be jumpers all night probably?
It really depends whether they're wheel loader or dozer whoops. But with how Salt Lake was last year, I believe, they got really sketchy towards the end. There's a couple guys that wrecked in them in the main event. I think preferably it's going to probably be skimmers because they're going to be pretty hard whoops. If I remember correctly, it's going to be kind of slippery, kind of dry by the time we get to the main events here. So it just, yeah, it depends on how big of a berm. If it's a flat corner or if they actually put a berm 90 up in there that you can bank off of to get into them. So it'll be interesting. But having a 90 setup always turns into jumpers quicker than a 180 setup going into whoops.
So let's talk about these back-to-back rhythms after the whoops. Both are pretty short. I see a what on-off triple. Any other rhythms you can really see there?
I mean, the only thing you would maybe do at that point is single over table 3-1, but you never really want to one into a corner. Depends on how big that three is, how steep that, or the three out, how steep the big is to see how high it throws you. But yeah, it's that's what I was kind of saying about this track is it looks like there's not any massive rhythm sections that have a whole lot of options. It's going to be a lot of dudes doing the exact same thing. So you're going to be most likely on off three into the corner, turn three, then obviously supercross triple. So you're just doing that. And then, yeah, it's going to be pretty simple, I believe.
So immediately after that's a bull turn, and it looks steep, and then we've got the one on the other end that looks like it's got a net on it, so it's probably steep. But only two real, true, deep bull turns. Where do you see good passing opportunities on this track?
Through the whoops, to be really honest, through the whoops into that next bowl. Because unless there's not going to be anything crazy advantage. I mean, so where was it? I want to say Detroit, maybe, where we went. Where's the whole Deegan and Jordan Smith situation, right? Where we came out of the whoops, went all the way across, all the way across. Like there wasn't many passes made in those sections, so I don't see a whole lot of passes being made in the double turn, double go back across the finish or the start stretch kind of deal, unless you can get one heck of a run in there and just put it in there. But most of the passes are probably going to come from the other side of the track where those whoops and that other rhythm section is.
So you already mentioned it, but let's talk about this interesting little wall thing on the inside of that rhythm, or on the inside after that rhythm before we cut under the tunnel. But then there's also this little mogul thing on the 90 before we cross across the gate. When they do leave these in, because they do occasionally, do the little bumps on the inside, do they even change the racing at all, or are they literally just kind of a funnel?
Um, I like the one that looks like it's right before the you go across the start stretch. The one after the Supercross triple that looks like a wall. I will be very shocked if that is there because that does not seem like that's a good move unless it's a small one. If it's a legitimate wall, nobody will be going on it. The one on the inside there, I mean, it could open up some different rhythms, potentially depending on what you're able to do. Because if you can go on off three and then like double across to that little, you know what I mean? Like that could actually be a pretty good line. Because most of the time you're probably going to be on off three out of that corner unless you're capable of getting the over like we were talking about. Depends on how much room you have before that finish or that first face. If you can go over the table 3-2 to the outside bank and then get the momentum coming in the corner. So I can appreciate that one because otherwise everybody would just jump towards the inside. So then it changes it up. So I mean, it's hit or miss, especially when they try to do stuff in sand. And I'm stoked that we don't see sand in this track. Let's be really honest. But yeah, I don't know. It's a toss up depending on how they build it.
So last year in Salt Lake, Jason Anderson was fastest in qualifying with a 46.187. What is your best guess? What is the fastest heater going to be on this layout?
46.187. We have a couple more. I mean, I'm trying to think last year because last year was the pulp race. You didn't. There was sand in last year's, like kind of like that sand sweeper. It wasn't anything gnarly. Um, he had a 46.1. I would say, let's just say 49. I don't know.
All right, that'll work, man.
49. Well, yeah, we'll send it there. I don't know. I'd have to see the actual track and the scale of it, but yeah, I mean, may add a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be too much longer.
So for those at home that don't already follow you, what is the best way to keep up with Kevin Moranz, and how can they support your race program?
So the best way to get in with the program, obviously the whole Moranz Mafia thing. So kevinmoranz.com is my personal website. It's got most of the information how to become a sponsor, Patreon, merch, program donations, et cetera, et cetera. to get entered for some giveaways and stuff like that. We have a YCF pit bike that we're giving away at the end of Supercross. So yeah, kevinmoranz.com is where you can find all that information. Moranz.80 on Instagram. Kevin Moranz on YouTube. Obviously, we have the vlogs that go through every weekend and the people supporting and everything like that. So we've got some cool things coming in for the summer that we're working on. But other than that, yeah, we have like all the fans stopping by, signing the bike, supporting the program, and putting back towards the van fund. So hopefully we can get a new van here soon.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate you for coming on to break down this Salt Lake track map, and I appreciate you at home for watching. Be sure to drop Kevin a follow on all the things that he just said, and don't forget to visit racerxonline.com for all your motocross and supercross news.